Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ellis Talker Show. Today, I have a very special guest. I have Congressman Ellzey, our newest congressman, who's been representing us since what time? When did you come in, sir?
The end of July,
End
about
of
5 months.
July. Five. You've been representing this district well, sir. I want to go ahead and just kind of get into the issues. Um, well, first, I was going to ask you, what's it like being in Congress?
It is everything you think it might be. It is maddening sometimes. It's encouraging sometimes. It's frustrating. It's inefficient. It's everything that you could possibly imagine Congress might be. Regardless of your persuasion, but it's how the founding fathers built it. It's how they intended it. We get excellent legislation done on a bipartisan basis, much like my Vital Assessment Act, helping veterans, because at the end of the day, all Americans agree that we should be treating our veterans and our military families better. Other things that are expensive spending bills are extremely difficult to pass through, and they should be. So it's the system sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. But
It
I'm
was built
exactly
in
where
for checks and balance.
it
Sorry.
was. It was built in right there. Yeah, absolutely. And so I want the people who to know that who I'm serving, that this is the honor of my lifetime. I am having an incredible time learning how to serve every day, and I as a Republican, I'm excited about the coming midterm elections. And what I'm most excited about is how we have three district offices that are serving the constituents of our community very, very well with things that they need and they're entitled to.
Excellent. The vitriol that the media portrays all the time, does that happen in the halls of Congress?
It does happen in the halls of Congress, and there are intense disagreements that occur within this chamber and in the hallways and on the phone. But there are also very, very good people who are working behalf on this on the behalf of the American people, and certainly their districts, just like I am, who don't get seen on the media quite as often, and they don't make big splashy headlines on the newspapers. That doesn't sell newspapers. Hard work and quiet professionalism sometimes doesn't get any attention, and that's okay, as long as at the end of the day, things like the Vital Assessment Act and hopefully my anti-high-speed rail bill go through. I don't need to be on Fox News for that,
Yeah.
and then that's good governance, and that's what I'm
Mhm.
most interested in.
So, Congressman Ellzey, you talked about landowner rights, and you actually wrote a bill or with Congressman Brady on landowner rights. Can you talk about that real quick?
Yes, it's House Bill 6365. We just got the bill number today. I'm working with Congressman Kevin Brady from Houston, who's the dean of the Texas Republican delegation and very well respected member of Congress on both sides of the aisle. And he has led the charge from the very beginning of this issue against high speed rail. He's from the Houston area and he's against the high speed rail. And and I'm very honored to partner with him on this bill that says essentially anywhere in the United States, anybody who wants to build a high speed rail better own all the land before they start construction. Because if they're saying, like Texas Central is saying, well, we can start construction today. No, they can't. They can't start construction. They don't have all the permits. They don't have all the legal issues taken care of. They don't have the environmental impact surveys taken care of, and they dang sure don't have all the land. Now they're trying to use eminent domain to use the power of the government for a private
Mhm.
company to get the land that they need declared to condemned for them for a boondoggle of a project that's never going to make money and is going to impoverish our community in both its spirit and in money. We've already got extremely expensive food prices. What do you think we're going to go through the breadbasket of Texas and tear it all up? Plus, Texas was built on private property ownership. That's how Texas was built. That's how America was built. And to give a private company like this eminent domain is unconscionable and would set a very bad precedent for the rest of the country. So, Kevin Brady, I'm honored to work with him on this. And whether it gets through this session or when we take back the House, either way, this bill is going to go through and it's going to protect our private property throughout the state, but especially those in the 6th district who are threatened by the Texas high-speed rail.
Well, that sounds good because property rights, when we talked the last time, that's something that's very important. You also did something on innovation, the microelectronics research. for Energy Act. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Essentially, we recognize that China is starting to catch up with us both on AI and microelectronics, and this is our way of building back into the ability to stay far ahead in microelectronics and technology in the nation. So there are good things going on. Again, you're not going to see that on Fox News, and you're not going to hear about it very often. But there are some things only the federal government can do, like protecting our country and building a military, and things like helping with the innovation for microelectronics is one of those things that we can do. I'm proud of that too.
Speaking of veterans, you introduced that Vital Assessment Act, which you were talking about. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Vital Assessment Act addresses the Vital Act, which at 183 colleges throughout the nation, our brothers and sisters in arms who decide to go back to college need help reassimilating back to civilian life for one thing, and succeeding in college as well. 62% of our veterans who go back to college are the first members of their family to go through college. So this act already exists. What this bill does is finds the measures of effectiveness of the program throughout the nation, finds us better ways to conduct it, broaden the program, and ensure that our brothers and sisters who go back to college are going to succeed and contribute in life as they did in the military in the public sector, because it's very difficult. I mean, chances are you're a lot older than the 18, 19-year-old students you're going to college with, and additionally, you've had life experiences that they don't have. So it's extremely important to get this right and help. And at the end of the day, Isaac, this is about cutting back on our extremely high suicide rate amongst our veterans too. This is going to contribute to that, and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, it's when it comes to veteran suicide, unfortunately, I know about that, and I'm very happy that you introduced that act and got it through, because us vets, we need that. And especially, one of the things that I point out is Afghanistan really hit us hard. Now, I didn't go to Afghanistan, but I had friends who went to Afghanistan.
Yep.
And I know of some who have committed suicide because they couldn't handle what they saw, the debacle. They knew something wasn't right there. That's not what we do. Can you speak on that real quick?
I think Afghanistan reopened wounds for every veteran who's still alive who ever served in combat. And the despicable way in which this government set an arbitrary date of pullout, coupled with the no measures of effectiveness, we're just going to pull out. We're going to abandon thousands of Americans there. We're going to abandon our allies there. Yes, because when you spend 20 years at war, the people who went to Vietnam recognize this. You spend 20 years at war and then you get up and leave. What do we have to show for it? What was it about? What was our strategy? What was our end game? Because the end game that we thought we were ever going to have disappeared in 2 weeks. We lost 13 members in a bombing. At that point, of course, State Department was responsible for the withdrawal. Once that bomb went off, that should have become a military operation, and we should have laid waste to everything within a half mile after we cleared out the families, so we could have a protection around that base to get our people out. We didn't do that. We shut down Bagram. We gave it away. I served in Bagram as a contractor, and I went to Afghanistan 3 times. I kicked off the war, and then I deployed a couple other times as a commanding officer of a fighter squadron, and then I went back as a contractor. So we all have intense feelings about not only that, but once you recognize that weakness that we're seeing from this government based on the pullout from Afghanistan has led to 100,000 troops of Russian troops massed on the Ukraine border. China is threatening Taiwan like they never have before. North Korea is launching hypersonic missiles. We are weaker because of Afghanistan as a nation. So when we talk about all the Democrats going to Scotland to talk about climate change, in reality, what really harms the environment is massive war. And when you have bullies on the block, much like we do from 1938, when you look at Putin and Xi Jinping from China, looks a lot like 1938, where they are working together to cause instability in the world. We cannot afford another war. I have been to war. I don't want us to go to war. And so Afghanistan represents so much more than just Afghanistan. It's a weakness in this administration that we can't afford.
Yeah. And you've been doing things that concern the military and veterans locally. Can you talk about that? I think you did. You've done.
I had an Academy Selection Board last week.
Yes.
As a Naval Academy graduate, I was very proud to have an Academy Selection Board last week. We haven't made our final choices, but I want you to know that all the young men and women who want to serve our country, it's going to be a very tough choice. We've got a limited number of applicants that we can send off to the academies. But I'm here to tell you, Isaac, you should be very proud of these young men and women who want to go. You should be hopeful about the future of our nation, because the young men and women who want to serve our nation are so incredibly talented, with a servant's heart to not only defend this nation, but help everybody worldwide. That's what the United States represents. And when you see on the media how bad this nation is, and when you see people on the left talking about how this country has endemic issues, we are the finest nation that's ever existed. We're the most generous nation that's ever existed. We have sent our men and women overseas into combat. The only thing we've asked for in return is a little plot of land to bury the dead that we have defended other nations with. So I'm pretty fed up with hearing about how bad this country is, because you and I both know how great this country is. Many of us have paid the price, and so we need to be strong. And right now, this administration, it's questionable whether or not they're that strong. That's why Putin and Xi are pressing the test button to see if we have any resolve. I guarantee you we do, and they don't want to see the result.
Yes, sir. Now, you went on a CODEL to Southeast Asia. I remember I had texted you and you were saying, "Hey, I just got back from Asia." You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity to go with Senator Cornyn and 3 other senators, and Tony Gonzalez from Texas, fellow congressman, fellow Navy guy, and we went throughout the Asian area of influence and talked to our military leaders who are friends of mine that I flew F-18s with. Went to Taiwan, went to India. Everybody knows we have a Russia problem, or I'm sorry, a China problem. It's not just Taiwan. We have a China problem throughout this world, and they're going to have to be dealt with one way or another. But I do also think that the more weak they get with COVID, with their economy, this Belt and Road system that they've got isn't working out quite the way they planned. That's when they start getting really, really dangerous. Any nation that's really kind of on its heels, and you're led by one guy who is a dictator. He's now president for life. That's when they get really dangerous, and they use nationalism as a cause to increase their popularity. We need to keep an eye on it. But I'll tell you, the 1.1 billion people in India, they do not like China, and they're ready to push back against China. So is Taiwan. So is Japan. So are all of our partners in the Pacific Rim. So is Australia. So we're eventually going to have to push back. My only hope is that it doesn't come to a hot war, and we keep it cold.
Yeah, and it's got to be from a position of strength. We learned that.
That's right.
Dealing with communism in the past. You've done, and I know this kind of shifting gears, but I wanted to go into education. You've done some things there. Can you talk about that?
Well, I've always been a strong supporter of our public school systems. My kids are going to public school in the area, but I'm also a strong proponent of charter schools and the ability to choose. And I think a lot of people are very frustrated with what's going on nationwide with CRT and indoctrination that we're becoming aware of. So I'm always a strong proponent of pushing back against that. Let's teach traditional schooling. Let's read and writing and arithmetic, and keep the social issues out. That forces parents into having discussions with their children way in advance of when they want to, but it's also not an appropriate place, especially when we're using taxpayers' dollars to educate our kids. So we need to be vigilant on indoctrination. As we have seen, that the Chinese Communist Party have actually indoctrinated and funded numerous Ivy League schools, funding their professors, funding and guiding the curriculum of what young men and women are learning in our universities. We're all becoming aware of it, and the best thing about that is we're all starting to push back. And folks at the parents are starting to push back, as you saw in Virginia. You can thank the parents of Loudoun County School Board or Loudoun County School District for essentially helping Youngkin get elected, because parents want to raise their children. They want the schools to teach their children. They don't want to have to reverse things that they're hearing at school against things that they believe in. So yeah. That's the way that the direction the country's going. Everybody's pushing back, and I think that's great.
And no parents want to get labeled domestic terrorists. That's just, when the government puts a label on you like that, I know, and because we've been in that. That's not good. That's not good.
Yeah. So, yeah. The Secretary of Education should be ashamed for his pushing that letter. That letter was instigated by the Secretary of Education, and there needs to be some serious consequences for that.
There's a lot of chatter about voting as of late.
Mhm.
I guess there's for the People Act and another one. Can you speak on that? Because it does affect every one of us. It'll change our voting.
Sure. There's no room in the Constitution for the federalization of elections. That belongs to the states. It's specifically mentioned in the Constitution, and we need to be pushing back. But moreover, that is also a bill that's just going to fund the Democrats' elections. Nancy Pelosi could, if that bill passes and is signed into law, she'll make $22.7 million on her reelection campaign, funded by you, the taxpayer in Texas. $44 million for Senator Chuck Schumer, the majority leader. There are they will outlaw voter ID, which that I don't know where there's a disconnect between Washington and the people of the United States, because 87% of all Americans believe you should have to show ID to vote. So I'm not sure where they're coming from on that, and so there's no room for that. It'll be a hard no. I don't think it'll pass. And I don't think it make it through the Senate, just as the passing the defeating the filibuster will make it through the Senate. So there's optimism for the future. And I want to say this before we keep going. My phone is getting weak, so I hope I don't phase out on you here. But let's
Mhm.
keep going until it does.
You there? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still here.
What? Okay, so let's go. What would you like CD6 to know if you are reelected? Because you do have a primary challenger. Do you want to speak on that?
I got a couple of primary challengers, and that's what keeps everybody sharp. That's a good thing for our republic, and I'm just fine with that. So let's. I will be working very hard to earn the vote yet again, and my number one goal as a freshman in the minority is continue to serve the constituents of this district well. For the first time ever, we've got 3 district offices. I have a caseload that is very, very high, and we are picking up the pace on that. So it's an honor to serve the people of this district. It's an honor to serve the veterans of this district, and get people out of Afghanistan. Those are all the things that I'm working on, and stopping the spending that we can't afford. We're $28 trillion in debt. That has to come to a screeching halt. And come 2022, when the Republicans take back the House and the Senate, then it's time to govern. And it's time to be the adults in the room who are doing good things for the United States, not just trying to get elected, but cutting back on the debt, so that our future generations, my kids, your kids, can afford to live in this great nation. So those are the things that I'm running on, but also quiet professionalism and dignified service with honor. That is something I've always stood by, and that's how I have served, and that's how I promise to continue to serve.
Yeah, I noticed you don't throw out the hyperbole or the bombs like some people. They just throw around words and then talk about civility. Um,
That's right.
so so is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? Maybe COVID, real quick, briefly. What are your thoughts on how we're handling that?
Well, there's so many things. First of all, we should have fired Fauci a long time ago. Trump should have fired Fauci. The man in 1982 said some things about HIV that were patently false, and he should have been fired then. He has failed upwards his entire life. He seems to think that he is science, and if you criticize him, you are criticizing science. We can criticize science. He called a senator today a moron. That man he's wearing boots that are way too big for him, and I can't wait for him to go, because he has scared this nation. We have a hysteria that is going on in our schools, in our country. In Washington, D.C. next week, they're instituting a vaccine card policy where you can't go eat at a restaurant until you show your vaccine card. We all know the CDC changed the definition of the vaccine to fit this shot. It's a shot that they called a vaccine, which by definition, the flu shot you used to get is now technically a vaccine based on the definition of the CDC. And that's what the left does. They'll change the definition of words to make them fit something that they're not. So everybody's starting to get this. It's raging through our nation, but deaths aren't increasing, neither are hospitalizations. So this is going to come to an end. Tomorrow's going to come, and the sun's going to come up, and we're going to get through this. And once we do, people like Fauci should be held to account for scaring the United States and forcing us into fear. You think Russia and China aren't watching how we're reacting to this? They are. And right now they see a scared nation. But I also come back home to Texas, and I'm very proud to see people living normally. Our economy is booming. We followed the science. California and New York, they're not. They say they're following the science, but they're really not. They're inventing it as it goes along. And you can't argue with them on what the science is, right? It's all settled. So A lot of people have mishandled this, but we're going to come through it, and I think we're seeing the end of it right now.
Yeah, I call it more like faith because it's not really science. Because if you can't challenge science, it's not science.
It has turned
So,
into a religion for many people.
yeah, it really has.
So
Well,
has environmentalism.
oh yeah, yeah, definitely. What committee are you serving on? Just so that the people of Ellis County know.
Veterans and Science, Space, and Technology.
Excellent.
Very honored to be on veterans. I'm helping so many veterans. I mean, I'm not. I mean, we've got everything I do is to help my brothers and sisters just like you, and I'm so proud to have the ability to do that. We've got a great staff both here in DC and in the district who are working every day on behalf of veterans and families, Gold Star parents, everything. I mean, we can never repay that debt, right? So it's an honor to be able to do that.
Well, again, I appreciate you coming on the show and updating the district and kind of talking about the things that you're doing up there. I really appreciate you coming back on, and hopefully I'll have you on again in a few months, and we'll kind of talk about what's going on there.
Let's not wait that long. Let's do it before then. Anytime
yeah.
you call, you want to be on, you want me on, I'll be on. You do a great service for this community. It is something that you started on your own. That's what veterans do. You see something that needs to be done, you do.
Oh, well, it looks like I lost him. He did tell me that his phone was running low, and I just tried to get every little bit of information I could for you guys. Thank you for watching the Ellis Talker Show. It has grown. I'm getting lot more likes, and I do this for you. So I appreciate your support. Please like or subscribe to the YouTube page, and that helps me. That helps me understand what you guys want to see. And if you got any ideas, you can always contact me through Messenger on the show. Anyway, I appreciate your time, and I will see you soon because I have several interviews for like precinct 4 for the county. I'm going to have both those candidates on, and I'm going to talk to the Waxahachie City candidates. And I would love to have you come on and find out what they want to do for your community. So again, thank you very much.